We should be live.
Yeah, I can see it on YouTube.
Do you have the link? Okay, we are live.
No, I mean I went to our
live.
website. We are live. No, I mean I went to our website. Delay, but it's about 5-10 seconds delay.
Yeah, that's pretty normal. Good to see that we are live though.
Good. Am I sharing the link in announcements?
If you can, yes, please. And tweet.
But you need to share on Twitter.
I'll do it.
Yeah, well, I did it on Discord for now.
And let's not forget to record.
It's recording.
Seemed like the sound was perfect when I tried it on YouTube for a second. Now I closed it because I can hear myself double. I'm guessing we give people like a minute or two to
jump in.
Come in.
Yes. Hi, Cloud.
Yeah, you should have tagged everyone.
Hi, Cloud9. It's good to be back. It's been a while since we did our last stream.
It's been a while.
Let's wait for people to jump in.
Oh, Luke is here.
Hi, Luke.
Oh, 32 people in there. 39.
Aero Crater. Okay, Sizzle. Nice to see everyone coming. So we have the YouTube chat up. I hope we can keep up with this when we have the area session ready. We're gonna let's say 5 minutes for people to jump in. In the meantime, we can maybe chat just so that people can jump in and don't miss this. Especially since we are a few minutes away from
66, 68. Next people coming in is the 69th person, just saying. No, 71.
What
does this change our positions? Or is it only on my screen? It's only on my screen. Okay.
Yeah, nothing's changing.
Old money. Hello.
Hi, old money. Hi, Jenny. Hi, Roboto.
Hey, Jenny.
Jenny.
Troy.
So I've heard Cardano as NFTs. That's not true
interesting.
because smart contracts don't exist yet. So.
Apologies for the West Coast people if it's not a great time. We try to find the best times. Not always possible.
That's fingers crossed.
It's not the best time for some parts.
It will be interesting to see your project, Cosmos DeFi. Because the Cosmos DeFi mentioned that he has a project where he mathematically rate NFTs. So I will be curious to see how we end up being rated.
Magnus suggests that I invest in a nice office chair. This is a gaming chair. This is a game we're developing. I think it's I don't really mean it, but they are actually some of the most comfortable chairs I've ever used. Not a plug.
Troy, I always had a beard, but it's a bit extra long now because I'm in a lockdown for the last 3 weeks. And my barber has been closed for like 5 or 6, so I'm very overdue for my beard trim. Morning, Troy. So many people, so great. 86, awesome.
Great to see all the familiar faces. Hi, Forge. Steel case, Leap 2, noted. I will look this up. I don't know if it's my taste, but I'll look this up. Yep. More time to work on Equine. Come on, Troy. Go easy on us. We haven't even started.
Thank you for 5 Jeff. I look rested. I don't know how that is. That must be a camera filter or something. But yes, the kid is still waking up 4 times a night. But it's okay. I mean, you get used to being sleep deprived, I guess.
Is the music, is the audio good, by the way, guys? I guess it is because nobody said anything bad about it, but just making sure. Herman Miller chair. Well, I've always been able to get one. I just really like these. I have fancy office chairs at other places.
Yes, our composer is
Music
kind of
is a
like
bit too loud.
Is it too loud? We can reduce it. If it's covering our voices, it shouldn't be.
And people say they don't hear me.
Can you guys hear everyone when they are talking?
That would be weird. I'm not muted.
I can change your volume a little bit up.
I can hear everyone in the music.
Is it better now?
Okay, they hear everyone. Okay. I reduced the volume of the music. If it's still loud, let me know. We will be starting, just an update for everyone who's just joined. We'll be starting in
Hey, coffee.
3 more minutes.
Is this still minting? Sorry, no. It
Yes,
was a
you can
24-hour
tell.
open mint, but it's over. When mint. Luke.
Okay, mics should be slightly higher. Okay. I'm just balancing the audio a bit. I'm not sure if mine can be changed.
Yeah, Troy is saying that we are too quiet. Me and you.
Okay, I have an amp thing here. Which one was it? I wonder if it's higher now.
Let's see. Okay.
Or
Oh,
now,
Faha kiss me.
Now,
Now it's happening. You're a star.
Or is it here? Is this the gain? I don't wanna wreck everyone's ears either. Is it better now? Whenever we're ready to roll, I guess we have 3 more minutes, so it's at the 25 mark we're gonna be starting. And yes, it's being recorded, Krista.
Okay. So you're good. 95 watching, and also it's been a little while. Maybe we should keep.
At the
Get
25
started?
mark, so 3 more minutes. At the 25 mark, we're gonna
Oh, okay.
be starting. I should probably move the chat to near the camera so that I can actually the best live screen with Fahaduk and the cat is not screaming. Yeah, there's been some changes to the cat rearrangement. Where they don't scream as much. We really appreciate everyone's support.
When will we be able to mint a physical horse? 2030-ish, I think. Mark.
Mint the physical horse. Well, it's been around for a while. It just takes a bit
That
longer.
sounds.
You just need a biological 3D printer, but pretty sure Elon Musk was working on it. That's why he bought Twitter.
They already started. You can make like you can create biomass, but it's not yet a full animal kind of printer. Right?
Yeah, Zach is missing because he's in Australia, and so the time zone is always wrong for at least one of us. So it's
Yeah.
kind of hard.
He also said he's not been feeling well today, so that's another reason. What he wanted to.
Thanks, David. It's a lockdown beer because now in Shanghai we're in a full COVID lockdown. We are experiencing what you experienced the last year and a half in the rest of the world.
What's our opinion on Lovelace Downs? We love it. Eustacia did an amazing job.
Absolutely.
Very fast development of a very cool game. We respect that. My audio is still low. My only chance is probably to get closer.
Sounds like only you, Fahad, are the missing.
Yeah, I mean, I have some knobs.
So
on
my
this.
voice is okay, but apparently yours is not. But it's weird because I can hear you. But
It might be
I
just
guess I hear
slightly
you
lower.
from the other software.
Probably just slightly lower. Yeah, I don't want to be blasting people's.
You
ears
just
out.
have to shout.
Yeah, I can shout. Thanks, Jeff. Okay, so
Okay,
we're
let's
good to
start.
start. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody. Equine fans of the world, our lovely community, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being amazing all this past period. This is a developers update, long overdue developers update. We've had a hell of a 4 months since 3.5 months since the mint. We've been overwhelmed by support so far. We really appreciate that. The community's been growing in an amazing way. We've gotten to know so many very talented people and amazing fans in the community. This is just a preface before we start our developer update. A big word of thanks to everybody who's been supporting us so far and who's believed in our project. We have a pretty exciting update. It has a few, let's say it has a very nice number of highs. It does have a few lows, so I hope you guys are bracing yourselves for that. But overall, we think it's a very positive update. It also sheds a lot of light on what's happening. So without further ado, we're going to be starting with the update. So I'll try to guide you through what's happening. We're gonna have a general overview on the status. We're gonna talk about the. For some reason, it seems that my presentation is disappearing for a second. Where did it go? Just when I needed it.
It's back now.
Is
You
it
can
back?
see it.
Okay, that's good.
Yep.
So yeah, it seems that our presentation is rugging. So development, structure, and partnerships. We're gonna talk about the roadmap. We're gonna talk about content and what's been made. We're gonna talk about community updates, and then the AMA, the long-awaited AMA. So the general view. So we had a period where we anticipated some time being needed for some things, and we severely underestimated, or we got really surprised by how long some things take, especially during COVID. So yeah, consider this a feature, not a bug, to create more excitement. So we basically had a lot of groundwork to be done, even though we were ready for the NFT sale itself. To set up for development and cooperation with other parties and so on. Basic overhead that was needed, and that involved a lot of administrative work, that involved a lot of legal work, a lot of reviews, a lot of paperwork. That really took a large part of the last quarter, and that really was also bothersome because we were so keen to get our hands dirty with the actual work. Meaning the development of the fun stuff of the game itself. Instead, we basically had to get our hands dirty with a lot of legal reviews, with a lot of contract development, with a lot of stuff like that to set up our financials and to really put ourselves ready. Now, on the other hand, this was absolutely necessary. This is absolutely necessary because if we want Equine to be a sustainable project to go forward, if we hadn't done this, we'd really face a lot of issues. So we had to take, let's say, the full approach to do everything right. That did take a bunch of time. We didn't want to have any surprises which would compromise the project later on. So we basically made sure that everything was done right. We did all our legal frameworks right, so that we can enter into agreements, so that we can get into partnerships, so that we can do all of that. So yeah, that took a big portion of our last quarter. That's also been the reason why you guys haven't been hearing many updates. We don't imagine it being exciting to say, well, we just finished drafting our X agreement and so on. So the good news is that major part of that, I would say 98% of that is done. And we are busier now with actual work on the project. So that's really good news. Another point on a general update is that we're building a larger dedicated team. So it's been It's been us. We've had the artists on and off, depending on the requirement. Now we are building also a full-time team to grow and have more dedicated time to spend on building this project and maintaining it. So we already have a finance and admin manager on board. We haven't introduced her. We are actually in the process of recruiting art director, game design lead, a tech lead, and a marketing manager. So basically, a lot of these are local staff we'll be hiring in Singapore, where we've incorporated our development. So the development is in Singapore, and we'll be hiring in Singapore. If any of you guys is from Singapore and is interested in one of these roles and has the qualifications, please get in touch. Or if you know someone who does, we are anyway ongoing through the recruitment process for these roles. So, development strategy. This talks about how we basically went ahead with building the DApp and how we structured the project. So we realized that the optimal method for structuring the development was to basically build it to specialized components or teams. There is a very clear structure. It kind of made sense as we go forward in putting together all the different jigsaw pieces. And so we basically have 3 seamlessly interconnecting projects which we can handle with different teams. So one is the back end and the front end, which is basically the app or the game itself. And then there's the 3D parts, which are the stables when you view your horses and when you view the races. And then the last part is all the blockchain interactions, the DApp connector, the smart contracts. What this allowed is us to hire highly developed, highly specialized teams to develop all the parts. So we don't need an all-around team. We can actually work with a very specialized team to work on each of their elements. Yes, we can turn down the background music. I apologize if this was...
Fahad, sorry to interrupt you. Can you cut the music? Yeah.
Yeah. So it's down to 1%. So that's basically where we structure this into 3 different elements and parts. Nick, if you can maybe give us a little bit of thought on why this was done this way and how it kind of connects and where the parts really fit in.
Sure. In a short explanation of this is that if you go to an app dev company, you cannot really expect them to be specialists of 3D viewers, because that's its own field and it's got its own specialists. So if you're asking them to do that, they're just going to hire a specialist themselves. So we cut the middleman by finding, we'll say that a bit later, but we found an extremely good 3D dev, talented 3D dev. So we're asking the app dev to be made with nothing super hard to do, like blockchain interaction. You're not expecting also a company that can do mobile apps and web apps to know about blockchain. So the blockchain interaction is going to be done by me, and the 3D viewer is done by a specialist. So it was de-risking a lot, the development, to have every team work on exactly what they're best at and work on exactly what they're specialized in and very efficient at creating.
So, thanks, Nick. So this leads to our next part, which is there's a lot of work that really needs to be done to build the game itself. As you guys can imagine, it's not really an easy venture, especially if you're building something almost from the ground up. A game project that's building something on Unity that uses templates is probably going to be much faster to develop. In our case, we're actually building something unique, not really from templates. So that really does need a lot of time to build our own proprietary systems that work and to make sure everything is perfect. So it only makes sense if we have a time frame close to what we have in mind, is to, instead of really have an in-house team that builds everything, to bring them up to speed, to bring them to working together, to putting the expertise. It really makes a lot of sense to have a delivery team, so to speak, or an already expert team that can deliver a big part of the work where they're expert in some certain field. So this is the approach we really took. We had a strategy to build partnerships. So we already have some partnerships which we'll announce in the stream right after this. And then the in-house talent is really important. We're not really neglecting that, but we see it more as a medium-term thing where we develop that so that then they can basically take over the day-to-day work of maintaining the project and keeping building on the project. But it really made it much more sense instead of having a risk of putting together a team and having disruption there. We really thought that having partnerships with expert builders or developers would make a lot of sense for at least the initial part of commissioning. So the first partnership that we have is with a firm called FireArt. Anybody who is into web development might have heard the name. It's one of the top Europe-based firms. They're based in Poland. They're extremely, extremely talented. We went through a vetting process, actually. This is one of the things that took some time as well. It took several weeks to vet different providers of services, and FireArt have been really amazing. They've provided development services for all kinds of firms, many Fortune 500 and top companies that really, you can see basically on this slide, the list of clients that they've worked with. So we have partnered with FireArt. We're happy to announce this partnership to develop the front end and the back end of Equine. They'll be developing the app, and this basically reduces, number one, the risk of making something great, because they already have a very long track record of making excellent software. So this is a partnership we're really excited to announce, and we look forward to showing you basically FireArt's work in developing this. You'll end up seeing a very beautiful app, and we're really confident in that. And this is a surprise. We might have leaked or mentioned something, but this is a surprise that some people might not have been ready for, is that Equine is going to also have a mobile app. So the main approach we have with Equine is that we believe this is something that mainstream should experience. It's a digital experience we want everyone to have. So it would be very limited if it's on a very, let's say, hardcore, exclusive only to very, let's say, spec high or high spec devices. So we decided that we really need to expand the horizon and make sure it works both on browsers and on mobile. So we're developing it as a browser and mobile app. This is also another reason we chose FireArt, is because they also have a very long track record of also developing mobile apps. It's going to be an Android app, an iPhone app, or iOS app, and a browser app. So we're really looking for compatibility, and that's one of the drivers. We want everyone who has a phone that's decent, let's say, to be able to use the platform. And no, not a mobile app companion. We'd like the mobile app to have as many features as we can, so almost everything. We want to have the races possible to enter into, and so on. This will obviously need some technology, like the mobile, let's say, DApp connectors to be ready and everything like that, but those are being made anyway as we're talking. So this is another, let's say, partnership or a feature that we're really happy to announce. And the next partnership is with Prime Design. Prime Design, or Prime 8, is a very experienced Babylon.js developer. Babylon.js is a technology we decided to go for the 3D elements. So the 3D elements means the races, the stables, and we were thinking of options like Unreal or Unity as game engines, but then we realized this is maybe overkill for what we need here. We can still get great graphics outputs. And Prime Design and Prime 8, Andy is a really experienced Babylon.js developer who's actually contributed to the Babylon.js codebase. So he specializes in this kind of thing. One of his specialties is developing really high-tech 3D apps that work in browsers and on phones. So optimization is really part of the forte. Nick has been working also closely with Andy, so maybe you can share a little bit of what's been happening on that front on the 3D development side.
Sure. So Andy's been learning about NFTs. He's been fighting with the IPFS system a bit, but he's built really good foundation level tools and modules that can be then used as Lego blocks to do anything. But he's been already working with DevArt, so with his own stable. So he created a very basic stable and then put loading the horses in it and showing the horses in his stable. and he's been very much looking forward to getting final good assets for stables and racetracks and to be able to play with all of that. But we're still building a lot of the tooling for the loading of the assets, and just looking also, we're taking his tips about asset optimization for gaming, right? Because when we launched the project, we were very enthusiastic and we launched really high res horses. We're hoping we can keep all of that as cool as possible, but there's definitely going to be levels of details. So when the horse is farther away, there's going to be less details on it, and you're going to have the whole environment. So he's a specialist at all of this. So he's going to be tipping our artists off and refining the asset pipeline also to make sure that everything is super game compatible and can work as well on high-end machine and low-end machine or even mobile.
Yep. So Prime Design and Fire Art are two partnerships we've built for building Equine, basically. And then the next part is the smart contracts or the blockchain development things. So it's ongoing. It's a moving target, let's say, because a lot of it, as you guys know, is also still, let's say, in progress in terms of connectors and connections. I should probably let Nick talk about more technical details. But generally speaking, we already have put some thought into the smart contracts, though they anyway come tacked on slightly later on when we have a little bit more, let's say, structure in that regards. At the same time, we are also looking to possibly expand the smart contracts expertise on the team. So if any of you guys listening is a smart contracts expert, who is keen to work, or if you guys know someone who's also keen to work, please get in touch with Nick or myself. We're also looking to expand that kind of talent. Nick, maybe you can tell us a little bit of what you expect for smart contracts.
Yes, so there's going to be probably 3 smart contracts. I'm still designing the details of it because I've been working on a lot of stuff right now. Smart contracts is not going to be the bottleneck of this project anyway, because it's fairly simple what's actually happening in the smart contract. The breeding smart contract just says as long as you've got your stallion and your mare and the proper fee, then the mare gets the foal and the stallion gets the breeding fee. So that's a fairly simple interaction. Racing kind of has the same thing where you lock in your horse for your race. Then when that's ready, I'm pushing the state up to racing, and then I'm minting the race results. I'm giving you your rewards and minting if there's any kind of trophy or anything. So that's going to be also a stake machine, but a fairly simple contract. And then marketplace, I'm gonna see what we need to do, but my goal, hopefully I will use the same smart contract that's open source and that most people are using, and just be able to either add a few functionalities or tweak it for special needs. But I would rather contribute to the community with this one, which is a very, very general marketplace smart contract. So
Thanks, Nick. On congestion, that's a question we got a lot actually.
Yes.
Do we expect that to be an issue with our Horizon, basically, and the current development of Cardano?
I mean, even if there was a lot of races going on, the processing of the race, I'm not expecting to take place on the chain, on the nodes. I mean, it will probably be a back-end thing anyway, because I'm expecting the simulation to be taking a bit too much power and memory to run directly in the smart contract. So that will depend heavily on how the specs of the smart contracts evolve and how simple I want to make the simulation, right? Because there's a lot of questions in the AMA that will show that the simulation could be getting more and more complex. So that'll depend on if it can run on the chain or not.
Yeah.
And that changes congestions a lot. I mean, because if it's happening on the back end, then the smart contract execution is a breeze. You can just go forward.
This leads us to the next point, which I mentioned. There's a lot of highs, but there's a few lows. It's a bit unfortunate, but this is a little bit of, let's say, bad news to our fans. Is we envisaged the 2-stage race, which basically had a better release and expected to be in second quarter, so by end of June or so, and then a public release in the third quarter, so by September. Now, then we realized while we're developing that it really doesn't make sense to do it in that very broad sense of beta and public release, rather to actually do a gradual release of features. So, for example, when we have the stable ready, then we'd like to have people be able to log in, sign up, connect their wallets, and be able to like view their stuff, look at their, let's say, loadouts together with the jockeys and the horses, and look at all of that. And then to set up all the guild systems, which we haven't really announced yet, but we are making a guild system. We've been referring to it as stables, though part of it really doesn't make sense because stables can also be a single person. So we're really meshing this out and thinking of what really is the best form to put this in. But we are calling it a guild system for now, which basically refers to a collective of horse owners and how that should work. So this is basically a phased release, and then followed by racing and breeding, and then the marketplace at the end. So we'd like to do it in this kind of phased rollout as well. Now, unfortunately, what this also incurs, or what was the result, primarily because of the underestimated amount of time we had in the first quarter, is we are late on schedule. This is reality. We are very sad to share this. And we are sorry for everyone who was excited to start racing, whether this quarter or the next one. But we also want to do it right. We want to make sure that we do things right. I think we showed also a lot of steps we've taken to make sure that we are in there and to make it, and that we are truly dedicated to end up with something really great. But we also truly believe in not releasing something rushed or something that doesn't really work well. We really think that we want to have one great shot, that we have something really excellent, and we really hope for this kind of mainstream adoption to come from a high quality project. So the unfortunate result or consequence is that the timeline we had envisioned for a beta in Q2 and the public release in Q3 is almost impossible. So working with our partners, working with realistic timelines of actual work, and also keeping in mind the hires that we are putting on board, including the art director, the game designer, and the tech lead, putting work into the project. We have an updated roadmap. This is basically the more realistic version of what we see now as we get closer. We hope that this is realistic and not optimistic. And we hope that there are no other, let's say, big surprises that really drag us down. So I will share the new roadmap. So as I mentioned, so the Pioneer NFTs I mentioned just as a major milestone. Now the stables, we're looking at the second half of Q3. And basically there's a longer period at the beginning, which is this time coming up, where a lot of the app back end stuff is going to be developed. That's why it takes really a longer proportion, and then things are a little bit faster in release. So there's a bit of a longer wait until second half of Q3 is where we anticipated. We've given a little bit of buffer so that hopefully we don't announce any other delay on delivery. So the stables are looking for second half of Q3, the guild system first half of Q4, the racing and breeding second half of Q4, so by end of the year. We hope that we can hit at least a 1 year cycle from the Pioneer collection until release of the platform. So we're really looking forward to that. And then last but not least, the marketplace. We want to do a custom tailored marketplace for this. This is including both the mobile and the web app. Unless there's any surprises on the way, this should be for both of them. So this is the development roadmap we have in mind.
Yeah. And we don't want to make a marketplace just for fun. I think one of the main reasons is, well, yes, it's going to be tailored for equine, and that's going to be cool. There's going to be a lot of features for horse enthusiasts, but there's also breeding offers. That is a specialized mechanics of equine, and simply cannot really be expected to be integrated in JPEG store or something, because it's really a specialized mechanic. So that's the main drive for us having to kind of build our own marketplace.
Yeah. It's also about customizing your experience. Like if we're gonna do some custom features that really showcase the horses in a nice way, it's really not the same as having it on a third-party marketplace. It will still be a decentralized marketplace where people basically post offers and buy from other users. It's not going to be a centralized one, but not a third-party one in that regards. So, okay, so we head to the content, and I'll have also Mark also share with me a little bit of feedback, but we took a little bit of time on racetracks. We wanted to make sure we also designed this in a realistic way, has been our trend in making sure that we are true to the sport. We started with a concept artist to actually work on the racetracks, and we were surprised that the results were not really very accurate. I would say they were artsy but not very accurate. So we ended up actually going to, I mean, the line of thought was, who would be able to design a racetrack that's accurate to scale? So the answer is an architect, and architects are the ones who usually would be designing race tracks. So we ended up partnering with an architect. We basically shared a bunch of specs, and the locations and venues for the stadiums or the racetracks are fictional, the names and so. But then the locations that they're taken from, they'll be based in real cities. So the architect is basically scouting the cities that we've shared with them, is where they'd, for example, he'd look for a space in that city where if you had a racetrack, it would be cool. And then he just carves out basically that area and puts a track in it. So there's a bit of variety. We tried to catch places from all different continents. We are looking at 10 tracks if everything goes well. Some of them might be gradual or released later on. There's a few other details we're not sharing yet about the tracks. We'll keep these coming as they really develop. But we already have 3 concepts already created for tracks, and we're rolling out these concepts as they go. Some work on the 3D assets. So we've been sharing some of these because these are some of the most shareable materials. And basically the racing accessories you guys have already seen in the renders that we've released, showing the accessories. There's a lot of model optimization for performance. Basically, for example, the hair cards, we had a lot of hair cards on the models on the NFTs, and you can see that some of the NFTs took a while really to load. We don't really want that in the game, so we're working on optimizing them, looking at techniques to really make things much more lean without taking a hit. So you can see the demon horse, for example, in the bottom right corner. The hair part was reduced from about 2,000 triangles to, I think, 210 or something. So that's a really huge improvement. This was done in collaboration by our artist and our 3D developer, Prime Design. By the way, just for info, some questions we're getting now, if we can handle them while we're talking, otherwise we'll take them in the AMA. So model revamps, you can see the robot jockey skin. We really had an internal debate whether we should change the skins or anything that can be improved or updated. But we thought it really makes sense for some models which really need a little bit of a revamp. We realized we're opening a door for everyone wanting their skin to be updated and improved. We can't really do that for every skin. But things that we basically deem to require an update or a revamp, we're also looking at that. And then there's also obviously environment modeling, which is creating the racetracks, not just the concepts, but making them game ready, and also the stables. And this takes us to community. I'll let Mark maybe share a little bit on his views on what we would like, how we'd like to basically share updates with the community from here onwards.
Sure. So as most of you probably realize, we have not been updating you as frequently simply because most of the work we did, which was quite a lot, was behind the scenes, was very formal and not very exciting. But we entered already this stage where we really feel like there will be news coming very regularly. We will have enough to share, we believe, every 2 weeks. So we would like to do something that we've seen a lot of top projects, not only on Cardano, but other blockchains is doing, which is a regular town hall, right? So we would like every 2 weeks book a time either on Discord or streaming here on YouTube. Share our latest update. Sometimes it might be 10 minutes, sometimes it might be more, depending on the situation. And of course, also address any questions that might pop up. So this way, we will, make sure that we are very close with all of you. You are very close with what's happening. You can see the progress happening, and we believe this is the right format to make equine even better together. Yeah. So that's all about the town hall.
Yeah. It's what we believe a better approach. We really wanted to do this since the start, but that period really had a bit of a, let's say, a drought of updates, or let's say lively updates. We have been working so much behind the scenes, but most of it was administrative stuff, which really isn't fun. So now we are getting to the fun stuff. We don't have a slide for this, but basically we got bombarded with screens and wireframes which show the race screens, for example, and selecting races, and the marketplace screens, and what we'd like, where we'd like every button to go, and all those kind of details. And it's really exciting to see these kind of things show up. Exciting news number 2, or number 5, I guess, is the slide updating. So updating. Here we go. So CNFTCon 2022, we will be going there. We are really excited. We look forward to meeting our community in person. 8-9 October, Las Vegas Convention Center. CNFTCon, the guys behind it are great. We've seen a lot of other great projects already sign up for this. We think it wouldn't be the same without us also being there. We want to make it as equine. We're really excited to meet everyone there, everyone who has been supporting us so far. We are also planning a few fun surprises up our sleeves. So I hope you guys are as excited as we are about being there. One more fun update. I'll let this one to Marek.
Sure, thanks. So the other thing, as we got this question at the very beginning of this stream, question about the Lovelace Downs. What do we think about it? We think it's awesome. We think it's a lot of fun. It's amazing that we have fans that are so dedicated that they build a whole mini game. Obviously, just a small caveat here that. While the game is fun and is using equine NFTs, it's obviously a fun production. So it's not using our racing engine. It's not using our algorithm for how the race is happening, but it's using the horse stats to play in the race. So we thought that it would be really cool if we did semi-official, hence underground invitational competition. We would like to. We might do it more depending on the interest, but we thought that we'll start with a smaller one. We will have 64 spots that will come, that everyone who has the equine can apply for. There will be a Discord raffle and Twitter raffle. We'll also reserve few for ourselves, not for ourselves to compete because we don't have courses, but for us to choose maybe some members of the community if they weren't lucky with the draws. And the idea is that next weekend, most likely around this time or a bit earlier, we will start the competition. We will have in each race we can have 8 people, right? So we'll have 8 races to start with. 4 fastest horses will move to the next round, and we'll repeat it until we get to the final 8. The final 8 will compete together. Top 3 will receive prizes. We will announce the details tomorrow, but we will also give some, we'll have some NFT commemorating that for all participants.
Yep.
So yeah, it's it's obviously not yet full equine game, but we are really, really excited to have some fun and let you have some fun with the horses. And I should mention that we'll obviously also do live streaming, so everyone who is not racing can have a chance to watch it and enjoy it this way.
For the record, just in case somebody is not familiar with Lovelace Downs, it's it's a mini game, let's say, or a very simplified 2D pixel art racing game, which was developed by Eustacia, and it takes 8 horses. It uses Cardano wallet addresses to load real equine horses, and the colors even match, which is a cool feature. It also reads from the physical stats of the horses, but obviously they have no access to the mental stats. So please, guys, don't assume that this is the performance of the horses. It's not the whole story, but it's still a very cool project, and it's a cool mini game that the community has been excited about recently. It's really fun to play. And this concludes our developer update. It's not the end because we have the AMA session. We will start the AMA session by first looking at the questions that we had in our Discord and responding to them. And then after that, we'll also take AMA questions from the YouTube chat here.
I have a quick one. I got asked a lot, and when people hear that we don't have horses, the thing is, we have insider knowledge about the DNA of the horses, so we know how they'll grow, and like we have more information than you guys about the horses, and that would make it unfair for us to compete with you guys. And that's why we made it a team thing that we couldn't buy into the project, which is super sad. But that's the reason it would be unfair competition. So that's what's happening.
Yep. Mountain Mike has had actually a lot of nice questions while we were sharing. I wish I could have responded to all of them. He asked, how do you know if a person racing is using a horse from his own wallet? So for Lovelace Downs, actually, I think you can't. I mean, we could pre-register. Everyone registering, we ask them to tell which one is their wallet and kind of verify that. But for Equine, it's not really a problem.
What we will do to make it simple is that sorry, let me just jump in. But like for the Lovelace Down, for this competition, basically all the rewards will be delivered to the wallet that has the horse that was participating. So yes, you could use someone else's wallet and someone else's horse, but if it wins, you are not the one getting the prizes, right? So obviously it's supposed to be fun, right? It's not gonna be something super complex. So we hope everyone will play fair and use their own horses for that.
Yeah, there was actually Honor was asking, will we have the chance to upload our NFTs as jockeys? No, we do have a few other ideas for partnerships or collaborations, but we're not gonna rush into that. We're gonna leave some of the nice stuff for future updates. Stable in Q2, what do you have in mind? The stable is basically an inventory viewer where you can look at your stuff in our own environment and load out the setup. You can put your jockeys, for example, on the horses. You can visualize all you have. It's more like a stepping stone to the full app thing, but it's also allows people to sign up, have their own accounts on there. They can kind of get a feel, and it's also kind of a stress test for our systems and an early one.
Yeah, you'll be able to equip skins, equip jockeys for each of your horses. It's like a loadout, right? You can put the same jockey on every horse, but you can give them their basic loadout and training plan, and set a default horse for quick race. So there's a few of the functionalities that you can do from the stable. You'll have access to those.
Yeah.
So, are we going in order of the questions we have?
Yes, we can do that. Marek, if you have a chance to maybe start with some of the questions.
Yeah, I have it open. So just for everyone to say, we took down all the questions from Discord. We will go through them as quickly as we can, and then obviously we'll be more than happy to continue with stuff that you are posting. So if you could wait with your question a little bit longer until we go through that list, so we don't miss the question that you really want to ask. So I will maybe read out the questions, and then depending who is the best suited to reply. So the first question is about the horse's mental stats. Will there be more precise information about the hidden stats? For example, if the horse has a bad courage, what will exactly mean? So like, the question basically, it's quite a long one, but the big question is, how important the effect will be, right? So is it and how much detail can we share about it? So I think I can answer here that we will, we can provide a bit more information on the impact as a description. We will not provide the exact detail on how it works, but I think we definitely can provide a bit more information as we get over time, as we get closer to launch. The second one, there is a question: is there a mechanism or an option for the owner to decide where to put their horses in the particular race? Meaning, I want my horse to try and lead the race versus I want my horse maybe a bit more in the back. And is that what jockeys are for? And Ofat, you want to, or Nick, you want to answer this one?
I was answering the chat. Which one? The one you're selecting right now? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So basically that's a bit like, that's what it means, is that if you choose a jockey that's either hot-headed or wise, or depending on how it will affect the mental stats, it will affect how your horse begins the race, but you cannot make it lead at the beginning, like go in the full sprint. You can give it the mental stats so that it'll try to do that, but you cannot guarantee, like there's not a button that says try to lead from the beginning and stay in front of the pack. There's not that level of control. It's more of a statistic things where you give it the personality boost that you expect will make it go in front. So it's not a full control, but definitely the jockey has an effect on that.
Yep.
Did you read the question before, or did I just answer that in the
And
voice?
we have...
I'm sorry.
No, I did read it
Okay, cool.
before, no worries. So if you can stay on, because the next few ones are also really in-depth questions about stats. So maybe
so
you can take the next three.
Yeah, can you go more in depth on when acceleration will play a part? Right now, we're assuming acceleration plays a part in the beginning of the race when the horse is accelerating to reach its max speed, and potentially the end when the horse is accelerating again to try to place better or burn out its remaining energy towards the race line. And now, do turns also play a part? Certain turns may be sharp and require the horse to decrease its speed, and therefore acceleration would also play a part again after the turn. And maybe if the horse has enough agility, it doesn't have to reduce its speed as much on the curve. So that was the multi-part question. I've answered a bit simply by saying, of course, every time the horse is not at maximum speed, the acceleration comes into play. So the beginning of the race, coming out of turns, coming out of a muddy section, if you're slowing down for mud, and yes, at the end of the race, the horse will energy management is its own thing, but the horse will always try to be burned out at the end, right? By the time it reaches the finish line, it should be close to exhaustion. So they will always try to burn their energy, of course. So yes, acceleration plays plays a part every time you're not at max speed. And there's a bunch of reasons why you would slow down. It was a three-part question on top of all of this. Regarding speed itself, are there cases where horse speeds are capped? Say very poor track conditions in the maximum.
Let me be the party pooper and just also make sure that we clarify that we don't really want to spoil the game for you. Like, some of this is good to know, but yeah, I mean, let's go through this. I'm sorry, Nick, if I cut you off, but let's just not show you the boss fight before the game is released, kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. Okay. Regarding speed itself, are there cases where horse speeds are capped? Say very poor track conditions, and maximum speed of a horse can get is 35. I don't know. There's no units, probably kilometers per hour. Making other stats potentially more important for that specific track. Not going to say for specific track, but it's a physical simulation, and maximum speed is influenced. Actually, it's not an absolute maximum speed. I was using more physical terms at the beginning, and then we turned them into functional definition terms, so it's easier to just get it. But maximum speed is not an absolute, and it will be influenced by traction of the track, of the surface, and by the radii of a curve, and if you've got a horse in front of you. So there's a bunch of factors that can limit or help your maximum speed. Regarding endurance and stamina, we understand stamina is the pool the horse draws from, and endurance is how long it takes to replenish that pool. That seems backwards to me, but that's not important. There is a pool of energy and a rate at which you replenish energy. Could there potentially be short races where endurance would not even be a factor, or energy replenishment would not be a factor, i.e. very short races that a horse with high pool of stamina could go through without having to recharge? I'll have to see with Zach how short the shortest like realistic races are, but I would think a horse is pretty exhausted by the end. So if you're realistically going at it, you're going to be burning out your whole pool of energy, but everything you can replenish while racing, you get to use, right? So stamina will always play at least a small role, but a high endurance, low stamina horse will perform better at short races. And the higher your stamina, the better it will be for very long races or very poor track conditions where you will be spending a lot more energy to go through the same distance. Is that still mine now?
Cool. The next, I think you can take this one and then we can move over.
Okay, so all my questions are tailored towards the diversity of the stats and trying to make sure that potentially all matter equally in the game. Yes, definitely. We'll that's why we made some of the stats more far-reaching. Like agility is a wide stat to make sure that it's got the same kind of relative importance as acceleration, max speed, and endurance and stamina, which are core statistics. So we want to be sure that there's always something that you can do for your horse to give it better odds of winning. You can tailor your race choices to be optimal for your horse. So of course, yeah, okay, nice. Yeah, I improvised, but I said exactly what I wrote, so that's okay.
Yeah, I think the key.
So the next one is the question about the.
Yeah, sorry, I think there's a bit of lag here. The key, I think, takeaway from these answers about the stats is our target really is to replicate reality. And let's imagine that our range of horses, we always said that our equine horses are all race horses. So even the weakest race horse is the weakest within the spectrum of actual racing horses that are eligible to race in races, right? So that's really the approach we take. So this makes all of the stats being relevant. Some, let's say, absolute questions about the difference between a 10 and a 35 really doesn't really come into play unless you're comparing similar horses. So if you're talking about all the 2-year-olds, which we happen to have now, then you can actually compare the 2-year-olds to each other and you can see that difference. But then you should also not imagine that a 1 speed means as slow as a snail. 1 is basically as slow as the slowest racehorse in that regards. And then the max will be the fastest a record breaker or a record speed horse is in reality. So that's really the spectrum we're looking at. We're not looking at super speed, and super slow. It's really that kind of range. So I hope that kind of also puts the scale into place. Yeah, sorry, Mark, go ahead.
Yeah, no worries. So there was a question which I think we kind of answered in our update about the future hardware requirements. So we'll obviously get those as we get closer to the release, but the aim is to make it as broadly available as possible. And as we already mentioned, not just through web browser, but also with the dedicated phone app. So hopefully that puts some of the ease to the potential concern here. There is also like a question/comment that someone is expecting that the top horses will most likely concentrate on high-value stake races rather than compete in the handicap system. Obviously, we cannot answer what people will do. It's up to them. We do think that it will make sense to mostly race in your own class. But of course, we do not want to stop people from racing with handicaps, especially if, let's say, they want to race their friends who maybe have horses in a lower tier. are lower class. So yeah, so that's how we would answer this one. The next one is a series of questions about the tiers. I don't know, Fahad, if you see the screen with the
Yes,
questions
I
or
have.
not. So
I have.
it
I have
has
the
a
questions.
document.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I can
maybe you
take.
can take. Yeah, so maybe you can take that one.
Sure.
Cool.
So, a lot of things like the system components of tiers, and even some of the details of races and how many courses. So, some of the racetracks, for example, have multiple courses where you have a straight run where you can have a race on. Then you also have the track where you can do the longer lap or you can do the shorter lap. So there's a bunch of details, things like even balancing the stats and how they affect things. They really are, again, something that's to be polished, and really fine-tuned. I mentioned earlier that we're also hiring a game design lead. So we'd like to have the game design lead also on board to basically handle a lot of these aspects of game balance. This is basically be a big responsibility, but it's meant to also make sure that everyone's experience is really great. A good game design leads to everyone being happy with the game. Bad game design makes it imbalanced. So that's really something we're fleshing out. One of the other things is the gameplay aspects, like for example, guilds. A lot of people are asking what do guilds do, and really the details of that are something we also want to have a dialogue with the community about, to know what I'll use the word guild here just for sake of clarification. Some people imagine the stable to be a single person, horses. So basically, I call guild as the collective of multiple horse owners wanting to put their, let's say, efforts together. One of the simple options is to allow people to give different breeding stud charges or cover fees to their in-guild members. So if somebody's within your guild, you want to give them a discount. Instead of, if you want somebody within your guild to use your stallion, they can pay less. You can set that price, for example. Within the guild, you can even put sale prices for your horses. If you want to sell internally within the guild, you can put a special price as that. But then you can also, if you're an owner of a guild, you can put different restrictions. You can make it only by invitation. Not anyone can join your guild. You can only accept somebody based on certain criteria or their contribution, and then you can take trophies together whenever you win in a tournament between different guilds. These are kind of concepts we have about guilds, but we also want to have dialogue with the community to also know these guild owners or stable owners. We've seen a lot of organic growth there. Sorry, I kind of diverted from the question. The question was about tiers and racing tiers. So it is really subject to optimization. We're thinking something along the lines of 5 tiers, being the tiers not really linking to the entry fee and the payout or the winnings, but rather linking to the absolute, let's say, ability of the horses. And then whether they'll be on total stats or wins or elo systems, really all of these systems are in place. And we really need to do a lot of modeling to see what really is the fair system of all. Every one of them has their pros and cons. Some of them can be gamed more easily than others. If you have an elo system, some people will intentionally lose, even though that might cost them something. If you have a stat-based system, some people might really lose a chance to really try out their horses. So the other part also is that there's physical stats, so you kind of can confuse that into the mental stats. But we are basically have all these different options. We really need to model out the different pros and cons, and also maybe test out what really works the best in different game systems. Thankfully, we have a lot of existing games, whether it's horse racing or other games, which give us really good models on competitive gaming. Competitive gaming systems really have all of these things worked out. Most competitive games have an elo system, so it really makes the most sense. But an elo system will be based on win ratio or actual relative wins and leveling up and down. We looked at the Hong Kong system, which is used in real life racing, for example, and that tier system is really simple, where every win you get basically a number of points, and if you reach a certain number of points, you will basically be upgraded to that different tier. So I think that answers that question. There was a question about breeding fees.
Yep.
So breeding fees are really tricky. The reason we see them as tricky is breeding and oversupply is one of the challenges that some other games face, and in a broader sense, a lot of the blockchain games which have massive growth also end up having a challenge when they grow too much. The reason that exists is because when we have real true ownership of assets, when you have true ownership of horses, that means people can also sell them in the market. And when people have an incentive to sell, they can also make some decisions where they end up creating an oversupply scenario. And that can be a little bit detrimental to everyone else. So that can basically risk the ecosystem in some way. So we also have seen this being a challenge in a lot of the other blockchain-based games which have NFTs that have value. So we think it should be relatable in some way to the value of the horses. How to put a fair system to this? We're thinking of something that takes into account what should be the minimum value of a horse. And then there can also be basically on top of that a ramping system which we considered, which basically says when you have too many horses bred in that month, it kind of ramps up so that not too many people are really outgrowing the actual growth of number of users in the game. So this is another question about economics or tokenomics. It kind of ends up being a tokenomics thing, even though it's not something about, let's say, fungible tokens. But it's just a point there about these. So how many races in a month is a question we got. So in an optimal case, you'd want to have as many races as people not waiting for long. Now, obviously, races will be different. So a high stakes race or a high winnings race or a tournament race will obviously have much longer preparation time. Preparation time means you can even schedule your race for a day ago or enter it some while ago and just schedule it. And you can come in and watch the race when it happens. But then if you talk about fast races, ones that have maybe lower entry fees or ones that don't need preparation, optimally you'd want every player to be able to jump in, have a low waiting time. So 2 minutes, 5 minutes, 3 minutes of waiting time would be amazing to have. This would also need a big number of players, a big player base. So it really depends on the growth. It's really tough to, I think, Chrissy, this is the same question that you have, how many races per day? It really depends. We'd like to scale this up based on the number of population and the activity. It would need to really scale up, because if we set a certain number, if we say 100 races per day and then we have many more players, then you'd have many players just waiting until the next day. It doesn't make sense. And if you have very few players, it also doesn't make sense to make too many races. We also, part of our design is we want to make a quick race option, where if you select quick race, it will just take you to the next available race where you have players set up. This is meant for people who just want to get on their app, get on their game and just race. People who don't really want to plan out and wait for a race to be scheduled. And
like if you're hiding in the corridor from your boss and you take out your mobile phone and you just want to do quick race, right? And put it back in your pocket.
Yeah.
Just saying.
So that's also a functionality you want to have, which makes it easier. But then obviously you'd also want to set like your configuration. You want to select a default horse and so on. So I hope this answers. There was a question. Horses per race, this really depends on the field size. So field size is a part of strategy, actually. Like field size meaning the size of the race course. So if you choose a race course or a racetrack that's smaller, then that's going to have a smaller field size. That's going to have fewer horses. Fewer horses means a higher chance, a higher absolute, let's say, probability or base probability of winning, because if there's 8 horses, it's easier to win versus having 16 horses. And there's also another element or strategy of having less competition on the track, of overturning or overcoming when you have a turn, or when you have to overtake a horse. When you have more horses, a less confident horse will have a challenge. When you have fewer horses, then it really normalizes a little bit more. So I think that answers that question.
I think I'm going to have to answer a few things from the chat here. So breeding, okay? A lot of you are asking about it. We answered that. I think we answered it a lot with Mendelian genetics, okay? So I'm going to give you a tiny bit more information, okay, but not a lot. So Mendelian genetics means horses have pairs of chromosomes like you do. They have a bunch of pairs of chromosomes. And when you breed, you get one of the pairs, you don't know which one, a random of each of the parents. And you make an offspring with that. So he gets pairs of chromosomes where each chromosome comes from one of the parents, okay? And the whole mechanics of the game is made such that the DNA describes the horse completely. So then it creates the physical stats, the mental stats, the color, the patches, and everything. And it is logical. Okay, so if you've got some kind of color, it'll follow Mendelian genetics. So sometimes if your color is recessive gene, it might be harder to turn up in your offspring. If it's a dominant gene, it might be easier to turn up in your offspring. And the statistics are even more complex than that. So even if your horses have your parent has 20 and your other parent is 30, doesn't mean you will be exactly between 20 and 30. You could be a bit above, you could be a bit below. The mechanics of it are a bit more complex than what you've seen. It's not just a linear combination of the parents, it's a genetic combination. So, it behaves as it behaves.
Yep. There's a few points. I see Chronic has a lot of questions, some good questions about the re-roll for Pioneer horses, or what they call here the burn mechanic.
Yep.
So it's a random horse. So when the Pioneer passes away, then you get a token back, which you can use whenever you want to re-roll a new random horse. It can be superior, it can be inferior, it can be a different gender, it can be a different color. It can be basically, it's as if you're rolling a new random horse. Now, I also saw a related question about euthanizing from the Freedom 35 stream yesterday, I think, where they mentioned this. Thank you for the shout out and mentioning this update. So, actually, no, we thought about this, but we also thought that this can be abused, where somebody can basically re-roll much faster. Maybe one day, if we see this as a good option to have, we might introduce it back or have it in, where you can basically take your horse to the other side of the Rainbow Road, even if they didn't want to, and then basically re-roll. But right now, it's not really something we're keen to have. We'd like it to be more natural. If we do see a requirement for this, it might be a tokenomics kind of challenge where we say, well, you know what, if you really want to do it earlier, you need to lose 3 horses to get one new random horse earlier. That might solve more a population problem if we ever need to have such a system. But this is just a concept in there. There was also a question about explaining the colors. I know Chronic, you and Chrissy have invested a lot in the rarer colors, and I hope you guys really enjoy the outcomes you get. It's pretty realistic. So if you go and look up how the color genetics work, it's kind of the same, and Mendelian genetics are that way. So it needs a little bit of research and learning basically how these genes interact. What it does mean is it will be possible for people who don't own these colors, possibly if they are recessive, that they can still generate them through breeding if they know exactly how to do it. Whether they are able to find those genes, it might be a bit challenged, but it also doesn't mean that somebody will have full exclusivity over a color, because there is a chance it might be hidden under some recessive genes. There is another chance that someone who re-rolls after they pass away to get that color also. Just something out there so that people are aware. And when I talk about hidden traits, so it's basically what you inherit from your parents that doesn't really show up and you pass on to your kids. We have a series of colors that are basically also within that, which we haven't really shared. It's not a massive number of those, but we can also add to those. But there is a series of colors, or let's say color traits, that have not really been shown in the pioneers, but they are already hidden in some of the genetic traits. So if somebody does breed those correct pairs, they will end up getting these colors as outputs. What do we have next as a question?
Do newborns show stats at birth?
Yes, but there will be newborn stats. So, I mean, they're as valuable as a 2-year-old stats almost, except that the 2-year-old can race when the newborn cannot race yet. So you're going to have actually 2 months. Somebody mentions they're going to be 1-year-old. They don't. They actually are born as newborns. So you have to wait 2 months until you can race them. They're 2 years old. You can still sell them as a foal or as a yearling. They can go to yearling auctions, for people who want to really take a call on a young horse that doesn't have clear stats. But yes, so they will have stats of a newborn, which is equivalent to if you have a foal that was just born, you can kind of see how their, let's say, conformation or how their muscles are built, or their legs. So you can kind of tell how good they are, but you can't really tell much because they haven't grown yet. So we try to simulate that basically by showing some stats in that way. Will there be another document?
The next one I can take. Just will
Yeah.
there be another? Yeah.
Go
So
ahead, Mark.
the answer is that there will not be another pioneer jockey. So we will not have more of the jockeys that are already out there. However, we do consider potentially introducing in the future new characters. Ideally, we were thinking that they should also have slightly different multipliers, right? So right now, all our multipliers are positive, but maybe we could have a jockey that gives a huge multiplier to one of the mental stats, but decreases the others. So it's definitely in the realm of possibility. It's not the priority right now. We have as many jockeys as horses, so we feel it's the right place, but we will plan some more jockeys in the future in the smaller drops, most likely. The next one, maybe Fahad, you can take about the gaming, will we prevent inbreeding, and it means both. So basically, what will be the rules? But I think also, will the game warn a person when they are trying to breed horses that are too closely?
The game will just not show it
connected.
as eligible. The game will just not show it as eligible. So when you have a pair that doesn't fulfill the criteria, or basically which are basically siblings, siblings to siblings, parents to parents, that's the level of inbreeding we are preventing. And if you try to do that, you basically won't let you. So that's simply the game will track it basically, and we can have this kind of warning or stop. Is it possible to do a jockey view during the race? Actually, we are already discussing these options, and it's kind of cool in a way that when you build this, implementing an additional view is not a massive amount of work compared to building the whole thing. So it's a feature we'd like to have. We're still working on what kind of camera panning or changes we'd like to have, but the jockey view is definitely one. We also want to see if we can really pull off a VR view, maybe only on devices that can support it. But a VR view is also technically possible with the technology we're using. So Babylon.js is and the GLTF files and the format of these files is very, let's say, positive or let's say. What's a good word for it? Compatible, let's say, with VR and AR. You guys already saw the augmented reality features. We have a few more up our sleeves. We're not really sharing them with that yet. We'll share them when we have something cool to show, maybe on release. But we have a few also augmented reality functions that we think will be cool. But also for VR, it's pretty compatible with that. Will there be blinders and horse accessories? Yes, but the way we see blinders and other horse accessories is to simplify that. I mean, we could have made these into different NFTs and made more accessories that you can collect in that regards, but we thought it would complicate things a lot. We already have 3 NFTs in the loadout, the horse, the jockey, and the skin, which is optional. So basically, we thought that the accessories, the blinders, and all the other possible accessories will basically be tied to the jockey. So if you have a certain jockey personality, that would have this color of blinder, this color of saddle, and this style, or the saddle cover. So basically it's going to be tied to the jockey that you're equipping. Possibly if the skin will override that. In some cases, the skin will also override the accessory that's being used. How much effect will weather and track conditions have on the races? So we want it to be an interesting level of depth. So
quick answer. I spoke to Zach this morning about this, and he says it's a huge effect in real life. Some horses will not be affected nearly by rain, and some horses start performing very badly. So in real life, the realistic effects is that it's definitely a major thing, like how your horses will react to mud, water, rain, and everything. So we're trying to go for realistic whenever we can, and since there's no real limitation in the simulation for this particular aspect, we'll try to go as realistic as possible.
Yep. And I think one detail also on that, which we got from Zach, is that people often, if the conditions are not really favorable for their horses, they'll just drop out. I'm not sure if that's the right term for it, but they'll basically not enter the race anymore. We're also considering whether that's a good option for that, to have in the game an option where there's a short window where if you see a certain opponent, you bail out. But it really depends on whether there's a penalty to it or not, or what really counts, and whether you should have that or not. What it also does, it kind of increases the odds for everyone else. So we're also considering whether that's an option to have in our game to match reality. But there's a few considerations there. So that's a good question.
Yeah, the next one maybe I can take. So it's a question about will it be possible to use equine horses in other places in the metaverse? And in general, the answer is we would definitely want, right? So obviously it depends on a lot of things, like setting certain standards to make sure that our horse assets can be loaded in the other environments. We cannot yet share too much because we are not yet super actively discussing this with other projects, but I can mention that we have been approached by quite a few projects that are interested in having equine represented in their metaverses. We will definitely be talking a bit more with them once we are ready, and we will be announcing when it comes up. But overall, we would love to see our horses running around other projects that are already made to be in 3D.
Let me bring the hype back, since we have a little bit of hype. I think we have. I don't want to be overhyped, but I want to bring the hype when it's due. All right. So we've been number one. We've been very grateful to be approached by, I think, tens of projects asking for collabs, and we really respect every single project which deems us as a great, let's say, collab partner. And we really appreciate all of those. We also gave almost a blanket response to everyone saying we would like to look into it, but we're not ready to even start looking into these because we're so busy making sure that we have our own stuff in place. So that's basically the state of mind. I will say that we have a really, really, really exciting one being lined up. Okay, I will give you guys this hype when I can, because we do have. I know that both projects are very keen on having this happen. It's not yet announced or even leaked or shared with anyone, so I'll keep this to us. But there's a very, very exciting one which we are looking forward to ironing out and then announcing at the right time. I will take this moment and I'll give you guys the hype that you need, but because it's absolutely true, and it's a collab that we are looking to announce at the time. You can go ahead.
Thanks. So yeah, I think the next one, let me have a quick look. When is the game launch date? We covered that. Will the horses actually race in a pack, or will they essentially just stay in their lane? So maybe, Nick, that's one you can take.
Yes. Current plan was to allow lane switching. It does complexify the simulation a lot, but I'm thinking it's a great level of simulation to add. It's not that bad. Of course, you go from 1 dimension to 2 dimension, and there's a lot of interactions that can go wrong, like you can have colliding horses and stuff, and you can be stuck behind a horse. So it does add a lot of little things to the simulation, but I'm thinking it's worth it. I'm thinking it's more realistic and it's more fun, and there will be more strategy or more stuff can happen that may make you scream at your screen. So I think it's more exciting.
Yeah, I think a good question about
Cool.
about pioneers. If I just take this one more time about the breeding and the population of horses. So our vision is that while we don't want to mint more horses ourselves and would rather want it to be um, through breeding, we only don't want to say that we will never mint any horses in case, say for example, we reach a very high level of adoption where we have 1 million users, and that's a target we hope for. We can't guarantee, we can never guarantee this, but we are aspiring. We're a very ambitious project. We think we have what it takes, so we hope to one day have 1 million users or more. So if in that case we only have 50,000 horses in population, obviously there's a large number of people who really want to get in and can't. And in that case, it really doesn't make sense to keep people in the breeding cycle and wait until everyone can really populate and sell those. So in that case, we might really open up, let's say, some valves to allow minting horses. A more detailed question from Tyler was, if we do decide to mint more horses, will they be like the original Pioneer horses with re-rolling? No. If we do make new horses, they will not be the same as the Pioneers. They will be basically the same as the bred horses. They will be newborns. It's just that instead of getting them from a pair, you'll get them as a new mint. But it's basically, we rely on the existing community of players and owners to be supplying horses to whoever else wants to get in there. We also want everyone though to be mindful and not really overbreed, because that can be a problem in itself. We hope to have some good measures to avoid that.
Okay, then the next one, I think we already replied about, will there be a digital horse euthanasia? The answer is no. We were discussing options, but we felt it's not the right thing to have for a few reasons. Next one is about breeding. If two horses, one has speed of 20, the other has a speed of 30, will all the offspring be the speed in between? And the answer that Nick already gave is that actually it is possible to go outside of those ranges, but it will not be very common. The next one, I'm actually not sure I understand this question fully, to be honest. This is about, are there any active horse players in a forum?
It's about betting.
So horse players channel could be fun to break down daily card and be part. It's about betting, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know, Fat, you want to take it or should I?
If we do make a channel for that on Discord, it would probably be exclusive and only for a certain role. It does come with a liability, I think, a big liability if we support this. If somebody has some advice, and we'd really prefer not to. But if people want to get to know each other and communicate there and make their own community for that, we're happy to connect people together.
But for betting, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, like I said in the chat, though, keep in mind that I will be doing an official minting of an NFT with the race results in them. So that will be public and guaranteed that it's the equine result. And so, it's a public way to get the official results if anybody wants to use that.
Yeah. But here it's also about real life horse betting, not digital horse betting. So we're saying that we probably won't have a channel for that in our Discord, but if people want to get to know each other. 4-5 Jeff, thank you for suggesting that I break my fast. I've finished this much of the bottle. I haven't had any food. I was fasting in the morning, but let's finish this AMA and then I'll go have my meal. So we have a few questions. There was a question from JPS.
The next one.
I'm trying to take a few questions from the chat if we can, in the middle of these. I know we said we'd leave them for later, but just to keep it a little flowing. There was a question, will there be races for certain age horses? Yes, we want there to be this kind of variety. Anything you see in real, let's say, non-digital horses, the non-digital conventional horses, let me call them that instead of real, because even the NFT horses are real in their own way. So if you have two-year-old races, you have certain age brackets and so on. So that's definitely possible. There's a few other events, but we also want to be true to the sport as much as we can. So we'll also keep those balanced around real event planning. Where will those race results NFTs be sent to the winner? No, the race result will be. That's one way to actually look at it. Like I remember we said, we talked about the race result NFT. We might be keeping it, but then the winner can also get an NFT, and then, or it can be an option to mint that if you actually won that race, for example. Race for specific skins is a tough one. There's a lot of reservations around skins from the purists. We want to make sure that it doesn't really impact the experience. We really want to make sure that it doesn't impact the experience. So I know a lot of people love the skins and enjoy them, and I'm personally a fan of them as a gamer kind of content. But I also know a lot of people hate them. So it is really divided in that way. We have the challenge of keeping both sides happy, and I think we can do that easily. So the classic mode is one thing. Having things like skins, restricted horses would be fun. It would be a fun and interesting mechanic. It would be outside the standard track of races. It might be a special event or something, but it wouldn't be the majority of the game event. We can go back, I think, to the document questions. We're more than halfway through, so that's good. Suggestions: Stake Pool Race Cup. Each Cardano Stake Pool can have 5 representatives.
Yeah, that's similar.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ideas and there's a lot of fun events that can happen. If we have a guild system, then guilds can also have their own tournaments between different guilds and representation, where they nominate their best horses across the guild. One more thing is, there's a few single, let's say, person horse owners who maybe don't enjoy the guild aspect. But the idea is we don't want it to be really something that gives a competitive advantage, so to speak. Because then the other way around, somebody who are forced to own a lot of horses on their own has this type of, let's say, advantage over those who can't afford a lot of horses, which is fair, which it's reality. On the other side of things, if you allow people to create guilds, all you're doing is you're evening that out, where you basically allow a lot of people to combine together, where it's almost as good as one person owning a lot of horses. It doesn't really, I think, give an advantage over the single owners. It just evens it out a little bit more for those who have fewer horses to have an option to kind of collaborate. And it's also a natural, let's say, society or community thing where people want to work together. If you don't make this in-game, people will still want to do it outside the game. There's been a lot of also ideas or thoughts from community about having a rental system, having some other play-to-earn kind of aspect. These are really interesting to us. But also we wouldn't want to have a system that puts at detriment the core game system. And a lot of the existing racing games, let's say, out there don't have this, because there already is kind of a format for the racing games. But we're open to kind of consider these, whether a token system could, for example, fit in if it has value, to have additional features, whether that could be a linking thing, for example, where ADA can be an option, or otherwise the token can be a different option. There's a lot of really things happening here. And all these are basically game design components and aspects which need a lot of research and thought, but also needs a lot of, let's say, feedback from community. But also bear in mind that there are a lot of things that are also prone to being balanced out. So once we have the game out, we have room to build in more things, to iron out the kinks, so to speak. It's not meant to be a one-time thing. Private races, whether friends can set up and compete their own league. Yes, with the caveat that if the stats are shown in the private races that don't have the entry fees and winnings, you're kind of setting yourself up for a system where people can kind of discover their horse abilities without being in the system. And that's kind of unfair, because races are supposed to only show real, full, let's say, proper sanctioned races in the proper racing environment. So if we find a way to make this allowable without, maybe, for example, using random stats, not your real races, if you want to do a private race, something like a mini game similar to Lovelace Downs, that might really work. Chronic breeding fee, we already mentioned earlier that a little bit of aspect on it, where it's meant to represent what we see to be the value of the minimum value of a horse if we are minting one. So we might set it at something close to that and have a ramp up. That's kind of our view right now. So if you think, for example, the minimum a horse should cost is, let's say, a floor non-pioneer horse should cost 100 ADA, for example, then the breeding fee should be set around maybe 80 ADA, for example, or it's just an arbitrary number. Please don't hold it against me, but this is the concept that we have as a minimum breeding fee. This kind of protects also from overpopulation as a risk, which could affect the whole ecosystem. Next question is, the good definition of guild is not perfect because it's not yet formulated. But what we deem as a guild is a collective of multiple horse owners. A token to allow horse racing bets, and not right now. We are thinking of different ways that tokens could bring value, but we are not keen to promise a token yet. It might, instead of betting, we're not really looking into having betting within the equine system itself, but it might be a secondary platform which somebody else builds. Okay. What are the ranges? Maybe if Nick can take this question. Range of attribute gains we should expect horses would see per month outside training or horse genetics. Can we safely assume that, for example, a 2-year-old horse is a horse that's grown twice from a newborn? Like, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So just build that into your expectations. Every single 2-year-old pioneer horse is a horse that we imagine was a newborn, grown once as a 1-year-old, and then twice as a 2-year-old. This is the range of stats that it's grown. So this growth you would expect maybe with a certain different range or dynamic. There might be different rates of growth. They're not really fixed, but that's kind of what you can expect. Will races be tiered based on horse stats? If so, are prices pools higher for top tiers? Will there be open races for all level horses? So yes, there will be a tier. Prize pools will not be higher for top tiers for the standard races. It will not be linked to it. There will be different prize brackets for all of the tiers, across all the tiers. The open races will be where the highest tier horses have an advantage, where basically anyone can compete, and that's where those will have an advantage. Quarter horse races, no quarter horses, if I understand that right, versus thoroughbreds. If you mean shorter races, I'm not entirely sure. We wanted Zach to clarify, but it's probably one of the two. Did you guys make a decision on minting more jockeys or do rentals? No, not yet. The short answer is not yet. More jockeys we will mint. We do plan to mint because we might be in a situation where we have exciting concepts for jockeys. And the storyline will have to expand someday. It might not be tomorrow or the day after. So that's the short answer. We're about to wrap up. Apparently Nick is gonna have to leave us. Thank you, Nick, for staying so far through with us in this AMA. It's been great to have you.
You're welcome. I have a baby going ballistic here, so I have to go help my wife. It was really nice seeing you guys. Thank you for tuning in, and speak to you later.
See you, Nick. So the next question is there a min-max to what the growth curve can be? Well, at the same time, I would rather not answer that, but the short, brief answer is if you look at the spectrum of horses, you'll find some horses have very, very low stat numbers for a certain stat. That tells you that it was grown for 2 years or 2 cycles, yet it still didn't grow there. And yes, you still have others that have a pretty large number. So you can kind of estimate from that the ranges, though it's not entirely accurate. Can you give us some examples as to, there is a question, will there be fin horse skin? We're looking into it with releases, might be possible. We are excited about you sharing that breed of skins, JPS, our spreadsheet master. Can you give us examples what will be available in stable function at launch? Can we buy, sell horse jockeys in games, rent, find stud or breeding partners, track bloodlines or trees? There's a lot of questions here. Okay, so stable function is meant to be for as I said, viewing your inventory in game, looking at loadouts, looking at what your jockey will look like. Having the guild system later on will allow the guild functionalities. The rental, finding studs or breeding partners, tracking bloodlines or traits. These will be more a marketplace function. We'll see if we can introduce these earlier on the stable part, or maybe a simplified version of it to tide this over until that's there. But basically that's a marketplace function where you can view the whole collection and see who has what. I hope this kind of answers the question. Can the project sponsor a monthly championship series for each tier where you earn points for winning? Yes. Maybe limit the number of qualifying races you can enter each week. Earn enough points to qualify, add a substantial bonus for winning the championship. Would be a huge incentive to keep the horses racing. Definitely. I mean, we want to have tournaments or championship series. We want to have a schedule of them. We want to have an annual one. You want to have a monthly one. Can you race with no jockey? Yes, you can race with no jockey, but it will be default personality. The default personality is balanced one. So you can't fine tune the mental stats a little bit, but you can still race. So championships we do want to do, and we think it's really exciting, and it's one of the important community aspects. We even want to do for breeders awards and rewards. So for example, somebody who's bred the most champions, a breeder who's bred the most champions, for example, or who has this kind of, let's say, best broodmare award or best stallion as a stud. So who's basically produced champions. So most champions within a guild, for example, these kind of leadership or leaderboards, we know that they're a very important part for competitive games. So we'd like to have that, and we think it makes the game much more enjoyable to have these kind of competitive aspects. I think the last question I have in the document here: how will horse group tiers be determined? And we kind of answered that already earlier, but I'll repeat once again. So it's basically there's the ELO system, which depends on how many times you won and placing you at a level of skill based on win rate, and that's where we'll be closer. It can be a point system where basically if you win a race, you gain some points. If you lose a race, you lose a different number of points. And then if you level up by winning enough times, you get tier up, and so on. So I think that's the end of the questions I have here. Our viewers live, if there's a question that we haven't answered and that you asked, I would appreciate if you can ask here. Portugal have their own horse breed, being so friendly to crypto. Could you guys use the Lusitano breed in the game as a tribute to crypto-friendly countries? Well, we want to represent not only the crypto-friendly countries, but the whole horse, let's say, the whole equine. Our name is equine. It's not. We didn't call it crypto equine. And we love Portugal for what it is. Any interesting breed that we haven't minted in the Pioneer collection as a skin, we are keen to look into having later on. So there is a bunch of different suggestions, so we can add that also into them. We are more than happy to look into creating different skins. The skins will be more of an avenue for creating new content for people to basically have new stuff coming on. We always have fresh stuff. We imagine the purest, most competitive gamers will mostly be interested in the races, not the skins at all, and more in the events and the championships and being a champion as much as they can. But we still know that there is a big segment of the market who also enjoys always having a fresh thing, and NFTs kind of also give us room to have that as a collectible. So it makes a lot of sense to have that. We want to have that also there. Nobody asked, but I'm going to ask myself, what's happened to posters? So we released a season or series 1 poster out of series 1 or season 1, and those are not going to disappear. We still want to continue the series of posters. We've been too busy with this past period, but we do want to have more posters. Maybe the Lovelace Downs event, for example, winners might receive some posters. We might have some different concepts and ideas. There might be posters for CNFTCon. Whoops, did I just say something? So there are different ideas, but the posters, we want to be alive. Please give your opinion on breeding of rarer colors versus bay colors. Any opinion or anything you can add. It really depends on, it's very subjective. We kept colors for those who enjoy colors. Some people might want to have a certain color, and I guess the pro of colors, or the benefit, is that they show even when you have classic mode on. They will show even for the purists who don't want skins. So that's the benefit of colors, that they're always persistent. So a rare color will always stick out even if you have skins off. But then it's really subjective, so it really depends on who's there. Town Hall Discord, more discussions about guild, definitely. And yes, it's very important. We want to also have a discussion with all the big stables that are out there. We admire you guys. We appreciate you guys supporting us. I'm talking to all the different stables. We're talking about Brookville. We're talking about Trailblazer. We're talking about the Pioneers. I hope I don't forget any stable names. There's almost 10 of them now. I remember the first two just because they were the first two actually came out, but I would remember them all if I was in a better state of mind. There's the Wakerley Gardens. I think that's you, Chronic and Chrissy, if I'm not mistaken. There's all the stables. There's Troy's stable. So all you guys are amazing. There's the one that came out with the what was the name? The one that came out with a really cool trailer. I want to have a discussion with you guys. Premier Pioneer, that's Troy's. I want to have a discussion, and there's Elysian Estate, if I'm not mistaken. That's the one with the trailer, I just remembered. I want to have a discussion with all the stable owners or the guilds, to also have a kind of a back and forth dialogue. They have already been pioneers, excuse the use of the term, or overuse, in creating a community or a sub-community within the equine community. So you kind of also want to hear what their aspirations are, what they imagine to be functionality. Because we have a chance now while we are building to actually incorporate that, but we'd like to hear that. Thanks Ed Kearney for tuning in. The Aintree Grand National is starting shortly. We're really happy to have racing lovers among us. That's great. Any other questions that we have? Anybody in the audience? I think we are running out of steam.
Yeah, I think there was the question that dropped in about the tokens within the game. We are considering options. Let's say we are at the stage where, we can see the game running without it, but we can see benefits of having the token. At the same time, we would have to figure out the solution, right? Because it cannot be a token that's directly on layer 1, where every time you send the token, you have to attach 1.5 ADA to it or more. So it's definitely some considerations that we will have, and we will keep you updated as soon as we
There's
have
a system
more
some game projects have been doing, is they have an internal database bank kind of thing, where if you are eligible or earn some points, they stay on there until you go and claim them. So that saves on the transaction cost. So we realize that there are options here and there, but yeah, it's only one of the aspects of things. Tyler's asking, jockey only races every year on April 1st? No, that's when we're gonna have bovine. We're gonna have the bovine event every April Fools. Yeah, you guys want the bovines. Maybe it might be a skin someday. You'll see it if it happens. Okay, that's I think concludes the update and the AMA session. Thank you everyone for tuning in and for watching this. We really appreciate you guys taking the time. One more time, we really appreciate everyone's support, everyone's trust in us. We really thank everyone for believing in equine, everyone who's been active in the community, everyone who's been supporting us, whether it's with word of mouth. It's been a pleasure working on this game. It is a very, very big undertaking. It's extremely exhausting to pull this off, but I would say I'm enjoying this. I'd say once in a lifetime opportunity or experience to be creating something this big. We're really honored to be here. We really thank everyone for this. Thank you for understanding the situation we faced in the past period where we got some delays outside our control. We look forward to setting straight and have a clean release schedule. Thank you once again, everyone, for being amazing. We really appreciate you guys. And this is us signing out.
Yeah, thank you. Definitely, we have amazing, amazing support and amazing community, and you guys ask a lot of great questions, and we can see that you love what we are doing and you want to be a part of it. So we'll do our best to make it the absolutely best possible project out there.
Thank you so much, everyone. Tuning out.